Hi, my name's Robert McLeman, and this video is a short introduction for students in ES101 at Wilfrid Laurier University to the second of 5 labs in which we talk about ecosystem services. I'm holding an apple here. I picked it off a tree recently, and just a few short months ago, this apple was a blossom on a branch of that same tree. Now, an important event took place between the time it was a blossom and the time that the fruit was picked, and that was pollination. The pollination was probably done by a bee or a fly or some other flying insect. And that's an important ecosystem service because it's not just apples that rely on animals to do their pollination for them. Many of our key fruits and vegetables that we eat on a regular basis also rely on animal pollination. The key pollinators here in Ontario being things like bumblebees, honeybees, butterflies of many different species, a whole range of flying insects, and hummingbirds as well. In other parts of the world, ants and bats also play a role in pollinating food crops. Now, in a commercial apple orchard, insect pollination is so important to the success of the crop that the grower will often bring in commercial companies that bring in hives of European honeybees, that's an imported species, to make sure that all the blossoms get pollinated. But one of the challenges that we face these days is that colonies of European honeybees are often collapsing. Now, the reason why they collapse and die off is not entirely known. Could be a variety of factors. Could be exposure to pesticides, could be viruses, could be a lot of things. But what it reminds us of is the importance of native pollinator species in making sure that our food crops get pollinated. Now, one of the other challenges we face is that many populations of native pollinator species are also in decline for a number of reasons, one of the key ones being habitat loss. Now, what's happening in a place like Waterloo region where I'm now standing is that a lot of native forests and grasslands and meadows are being converted to areas that are not well suited for pollinator habitat, places like houses, subdivisions, factories, roads, and other unfriendly places that don't have a lot of flowers. Now, from the perspective of the apple grower, he or she needs the bees to be close to the trees for a couple weeks in the springtime. But from the perspective of the pollinator, the moth or the bumblebee, it needs a season-long food supply from the springtime through the summer and into the early fall. And most of that food comes from the flowers of non-food species, so just native occurring plants and shrubs. So one of the things that we can do here in the city is to create good habitat for pollinators so they have places to feed and to live year-round, even when they're not needed to be out there in our gardens and in our farms. So what we're going to do in this lab is we're going to cast a critical eye at the Wilfrid Laurier University Waterloo Campus. We're going to look at it in terms of what kind of areas are suitable or not so suitable for pollinator species. So there's 2 tasks that you're going to do in this lab assignment. The first thing is that you're going to take a campus map and you're going to color code it according to one of 4 codes that indicates the varying degrees of suitability of outdoor space for pollinators. Now, this begs the question, what makes good space for pollinators? What makes pollinator habitat? Now, I don't expect students to be experts on plant species or on pollinator species, but there's a simple rule of thumb, and it's this. It's that if you have a wide diversity of flowering plant species, chances are you have habitat for pollinators. And conversely, an area which has very few species of plants, particularly flowering plants, chances are you have relatively low quality habitat for pollinators. I'm standing here in a typical Waterloo backyard. You'll see some shrubs, you'll see a tree, you'll see some grass. You don't see a lot of flowers, even though it's early September when I'm filming this. So the reality is that this isn't terribly good pollinator habitat. It would be a relatively simple thing to convert this to good pollinator habitat. The planting of a few flowering shrubs like the butterfly bush, the overseeding of the grass with clover, and allowing some dandelions to grow in this lawn would provide some habitat where originally there was none. So it doesn't take a huge conversion or a huge investment in space to transform it from low suitability to high suitability. So what you're going to do in the lab are 2 specific exercises. First, you're going to take your campus map and you're going to color code all of the outdoor spaces on the WLU Waterloo campus according to one of the following 4 classifications. The first one being areas where there already is good habitat for pollinators. There's a few of those on the Laurier campus. Color code number 2 is going to be areas that are currently low quality habitat, but with a small modification, a small investment of time and money could be made into more suitable habitat for pollinators. Category 3 will be areas where you probably don't want to encourage pollinators. These would be heavy traffic areas where flowering plants are unlikely to do well, or areas that might actually be dangerous for the pollinators themselves. Maybe the north sides of buildings where the sun doesn't shine much and therefore is not terribly good habitat for growing flowering plants in the first place. And then category 4, which is simply areas that are not vegetated, like parking lots and areas with artificial turf, rooftops of buildings, sidewalks, things like that. After you've color-coded your map of the campus, what you're going to do is identify 3 specific locations that you've seen on campus that you think are the most suitable for improving the habitat for pollinator use. And what you're going to then do is write a 2-page memo to the Wilfrid Laurier University Sustainable Development Office identifying where these 3 locations are, what they currently look like, and what simple steps could be taken to improve the habitat for pollinators. And what you're then going to do is submit electronically through My Learning Space a scanned copy of your map, an electronic version of your 2-page document. So I hope you have some fun doing this. You're actually going to get out there and explore the campus and have a little look at it, and you get to see it through different eyes, I hope. So have fun, buy an apple while you're at it, and I'll see you in class.